So today I'm going to show you how to make a little wooden bird. I often make these little things after I've been puppet making because you get little offcuts, lots of different shapes, and sometimes you think, well, I could do something with that. So today I'm going to show you how to make this little fella here. So you don't just hack away at a piece of wood until you find out what's inside it. You do have to have a method for when you are woodworking as to what you're going to do. So this is my offcut for the day, quite a big one actually. So what I need to do is to draw a template of the bird, which I've done, and then copy it onto the side of your piece of wood, both sides, okay? And then I have another template which is the top of the bird and the bottom. So two views of this bird, one from the side and one from the top, and I will draw them both onto the sides and the top and bottom of this little piece of wood. So I then have a template to follow. Doesn't matter what you use, I've got a Sharpie pen here and I'm just going to draw around my template. And the reason for having a template really rather than doing freehand is that you've got to draw it twice, one on each side, and you're not going to be able to refer to one while you're doing the other. So it's good to have a template that you can just swap over. So that's him drawn from the sides. And then I take my other one, line him up, make sure he's straight. So whenever you do a template, what you need to think about is the widest points on the object that you're going to make, because you don't want to cut off any part of the sculpture that you're going to make. I have him, he's got two sides, and his top and his bottom are the same as well. So my next job is a health and safety one to start with. He's going to go into my vise here and get tightened up. I've already got a pair of glasses on, which will count as goggles. I'm also going to put my gloves on, because it's always good to have gloves on when you're using sharp things, even if it's just a saw. And it also will give you better grip sometimes as well. So I have a coping saw here, so I have a small blade inside a bigger space, so this is easier for making cuts that will turn through a piece. Okay, and what I'm going to do is follow my black line with my coping saw that way and that way, and cut off my corners and my excess this way. So this does save some time, so get yourself a cup of tea, watch the montage, and I'll be back in a bit. So while I'm using the coping saw to extract my basic bird shape from my offcut, here's a peaceful montage of my old cat Hamlet enjoying the fire pit in the garden. Lots of you have asked about her lately because she's very old and a little bit poorly. This is about as animated as she gets these days, but she's still with us, little toe beans and all. If you want to hear more stories about her and the rest of the Arty Mouse Menagerie, click below to sign up for the Arty Mouse weekly newsletter. If you do, you'll get art tips and insider information on the art courses I run. If you need more Arty Mouse in your life, you can also contact me that way to get an individual tutorial too. And if you're lucky, Hamlet might even join you on the Zoom call as well. So click the link, subscribe to the channel and give your art practice a boost. So I've now cut two sides up at the top there and down at the bottom here. And you'll notice that I haven't cut all the way through. I can't take these off yet. Now I've done that on purpose. I've left 2 points right close to the edge there that aren't sawn through. Now there's a reason for that. I've yet to cut the other sides. If I were to take these sides off that I've already cut, I wouldn't be able to see my picture and I wouldn't be able to follow the shape. So I will now turn it round and cut my other 2 sides, leaving the other pieces in place so that I can follow my drawing and make a better shape. So again, it goes back in the vise. And here we go again with the coping saw. And maybe some time. Now it's harder to do this side because, like I say, you've got loose pieces now, so it gets a little bit unstable and you have to hold on to it quite closely. So now you'll see I've cut all 4 sides. I've had to tape them together at the last point when it got a bit wobbly, but that's absolutely fine. So now you can see I can take off the sides that I've cut. And I can now remove those edges that I almost cut through because I don't need to see anymore. Ooh, that one's a bit stronger. Might need a bit of... There we are. So there you are. You can see I've got now a basic bird shape. I've followed a template to do it, so I haven't had to really think about it very much, and I've now got that perfect shape without hacking away and making a mess and overthinking it. Okay, now when you're working with a chisel, you'll often find that the grain goes in a particular direction, so it's easier to cut in one direction, and the chisel will actually fight against you if you go the other way. So it helps to draw arrows on what you're doing to help you figure out which way you're going to cut. So once you've added your arrows that will tell you which way to cut, you take yourself a very sharp chisel and make sure you've got your gloves on to protect yourself. And a good way to carve is kind of counterintuitive because you're going to go towards yourself. So, like so, you start cutting away at your edges. Often leaning it against yourself for a little bit of pressure. Okay, and this, although it looks a little odd and looks a little unsafe, you're actually very safe because in this direction you can't, in theory, cut yourself because your hand is behind the chisel, your other hand is behind your object, and you are working toward yourself and all your fingers are out of the way. So if you've got a good enough apron, it's good to have a leather apron actually, which I haven't got, but anyway. Just begin working off the corners. Going in the right direction with the wood. Now sometimes you'll find that your arrows aren't quite right because sometimes the grain is slightly different from where you think it is, but it's just a matter of feeling it out really. So now you can see that I have smoothed around my corners, made it more bird shaped, but obviously, as you can tell, it's not the smoothest of things. So all I've done so far is work away and made the basic shape. So the best way to make this a little clearer and a little softer is obviously with sandpaper. So my next job simply to organise these little chips and marks, take them away with a piece of sandpaper, make it nice and smooth. Because the thing about these little birds that I make, and same with all sorts of little wooden objects, is they just feel really nice in your hand. So I want to make this as absolutely glass smooth as I possibly can, so that it feels like a nice thing as well as looking like a nice thing. So now I've sanded it back, it's lovely and smooth and fits just inside my palm, which is a lovely way to have it. You can do all sorts of different things with these. You could paint them into actual birds, you could paint them with bright colours, you could use them as ornaments, you could just oil them or varnish them and bring out the grain of the wood, whatever you wanted to do. I tend to wax mine so that they're nice and smooth and you really see the grain coming through, because that's the way I like them. But they're really useful little things. They're quite comforting to have. So it's very simple to do. Go ahead and give it a try, and I will see you next week.